Namaskar, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Now, there's been a slight gap since I recorded the last episode, but I'm very grateful to all the law students and members of the legal fraternity who reached out to me and encouraged me to be at it, especially Shyama from GNLU, Ansh and Shravya from PGCL. I have taken note of your feedback and I hope you're watching this episode because we have a guest who is in her 20s and is already a role model for all of you. Joining us for the podcast today is my dear friend Ayushi, who is a lecturer at the University of Oxford and also a PhD scholar there. Ayushi, well, she is an all-rounder. She has excelled in all the areas that you can think of as a law student, be it academics, moot courts, leadership roles, as well as internships. She bagged the prestigious Weidenfeld-Hoffmann scholarship to pursue BCL at Oxford and has also been a lecturer and assistant professor of law at the Jindal Global Law School. Welcome to the podcast, Ayushi.
Thank you so much, Shivam. It's really a pleasure to speak to you after so long.
Yes, and actually see each other because we spoke just yesterday. Yes. So shall I start with the golden question? Why law? You know, what really motivated you to pursue law?
When I was in the final year of my studies as a high school student, I used to teach some of the children of the house helps in my colony. And I also used to volunteer a lot with my school's neighborhood project, where we would go and teach students of the workers who were living around the school. So I had a very keen interest in social change. I was also very fond of activities that involved oratory skills. So I used to love debate competitions. I used to love theater. I was really fond of being a leader, representing students. I would always stand for elections, loved presenting my manifesto. So when it came to a career choice, most of my teachers said that law would suit you a lot. And by that point, I had not really considered law very strongly because I don't have a lawyer in my family. I'm the first lawyer, actually. So it took a while to understand how the industry functioned, whether I would really flourish in it, and so on. And I think, as informed as you can be at 17 years of age, I think that's all I knew. So it was a plunge. I think at the end of the day, it was a leap of faith that, okay, this is one of the good choices. Let me go for it and let me see if it works out for me.
It's interesting that you mentioned that you're a first generation lawyer and you graduated from NLSIU Bangalore. And as I stated before, you've been an all-rounder. You've excelled in academics, won some of the most prestigious moot court competitions, taken active leadership roles, and simultaneously managed to intern at the chambers of some of the legal luminaries like Hon'ble Dr. Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, as well as senior advocate Indira Jaising. In your experience, how can law students today optimize their experience in law school and simultaneously achieve that sense of satisfaction in a competitive environment that law school offers?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Shivam, and something I would have benefited a lot from if someone had given me an answer to this question when I was entering law school. I think the most important thing is to enter law school without assumptions and without biases. The moment we enter law school, it's very easy to get influenced by the beloved seniors or people who are perceived to be the best achievers or studs and so on. I hate that term, but it's very easy to get influenced to the extent that you think you don't want to try other things or other things are meaningless or useless and so on. I would say the first and the most important thing is to have the confidence to have your own journey. Don't fall into the trap of assumptions. Don't fall into the trap of eliminating things without having even experienced them yourself. So my journey was such that I wanted to experience as much as I could. I tried as many activities as I could. I did mooting in my first year. I did debating. I joined the basketball team. I used to volunteer. I tried to do the best I could academically. I was still pursuing some of my interests with groups back home in Delhi. And then over the course of 5 years, I made sure that I did one internship at an NGO, one internship at a district court lawyer's chambers, one at a Supreme Court lawyer's chambers, one with a judge, one at a law firm in London, and one where I did nothing, which was really the most fruitful of all. I did nothing. I sat with myself. I wrote some things down. I reflected on my journey. This was, I think, in the 4th year or the beginning of 5th year. But by the end of my law school journey, I could confidently say that I've tasted as much as I could have, because I think the really high privilege of being a law student is that you have so many options. And I say it's a privilege because we should remember that this is not the case for every student in India, but it is the case for a law student. You can become involved in the civil society, you can have a corporate career, you can have a career as a judge, you can have a career as a litigator. So you don't want to take something up without really knowing whether it's the right path for you. So my advice would be to taste as much as you can so that you don't look back and you say, oh, I could have done that, I could have done this. Because at this point, I know what I liked, what I disliked. I know what trade-offs I've made and why I made them. I declined a training contract offer at Allen and Overy when I was just 19, 20 years old in the 4th year of my law school. And it's a huge amount of money. And, it's a huge honor to get a job at London straight out of your undergraduate degree in law. But having done the vacation scheme, I knew the reasons why it was not right for me. So try everything, have courage. That's very important too. Another part of not getting influenced by others' journeys is to have the courage to recognize your own, be true to what your heart is telling you your calling is, and have the courage to go for it.
And what a unique journey you've had. In 2017, you co-founded NLSIU's Feminist Alliance, that is the Alliance of Oversensitive Women. Recently, the Supreme Court of the United States overturned its decision was in Roe versus Wade, turning the wheel of time by half a century and affecting the right of abortion, and I would say largely bodily autonomy of women across the United States. What are your thoughts on this ruling? And could you, also share some of your personal experiences which motivated you to start the alliance at the National Law School?
Yes. Honestly, I think today is one of the most difficult days for anybody who identifies as a feminist or anybody who cares about equality in the world, because the right to make decisions about our own bodies is so fundamental to being a free human being. And abortion as an issue relates to women or individuals who identify as women. And so to have law that restricts one gender's ability to control its body is inherently unequal. So it has disturbed me a lot. Of course, ever since the leak happened, we have been expecting it. It's been imminent, it's been the elephant in the room. And now the judgment has come out. We know that Roe v. Wade has been overturned. And it is really, really disheartening that something like this can happen in 2022, and that politics can affect women's rights to this extent. And of course, the US has such a peculiar model of how judges are appointed and the extent to which politics infiltrates into the courtroom, right? Because if you have a Republican majority, that is exactly what was the basis for this decision being overturned. So as both a lawyer, as a researcher, and I think as a woman, and also as a woman who sees herself as an activist for women's issues, I am gravely disheartened today. And I just want to say that I know that people are going to mobilize. The only thing that gives me hope is seeing people in America, both women and men in America, saying that we will not let this be the end. We will not let a judgment from the Supreme Court take away women's right to decide what's good for their body and what their future should be. And that actually brings me to the founding moment of the Alliance of Oversensitive Women. It was exactly a feeling like this. I was in the 4th year of law school, and along with another friend who was in the 4th year and 2 others who were in their 3rd year, we had a discussion one day after lunch where we said, do we really study in a law school that talks about imparting an education where individuals will work for justice? If that is what the goal of the institution is, then how come this very institution is so sexist? How come women don't have access to the field on par with men? How come we don't have sanitary dispensers in the classroom? How come it's so difficult to tell a university professor that it's the first day of your period and you just can't physically attend class? There were so many ways in which NLS, and I'm sure other institutions, continue to be sexist, including in the daily language, the way in which professors tell female students to wear or not to wear something, the way that male students exercise authority in leadership. If you look at the numbers in any law school, in what the proportions are between male leaders and female leaders, even male invited speakers and female invited speakers, there's a very, very clear inequality that is demonstrated by those numbers. So that was the thinking behind the Alliance of Oversensitive Women, just 4 women coming together and saying, this is not okay, we have to do something to change it. And I'm very proud of the fact that we decided to name ourselves Alliance of Oversensitive Women, because every time we would say something in the classroom to the effect of, you shouldn't have talked like this, or you shouldn't have done this, the response would be, you're being oversensitive. So we thought, okay, we will reclaim that identity from the get-go, and we will say that if you see this as oversensitivity, if you see a quest for equality as oversensitivity, then that's who we are. We are the Alliance of Oversensitive Women.
That is so inspiring. That is so inspiring. For me, and I can just assume the impact this is going to have, and how many law students, and I would say students across the board, anybody rather, will be inspired by what you have just said. And I appreciate your views on the Roe v. Wade ruling as well. Let's get back to where you are right now, the University of Oxford. And could you tell us about how your experience was pursuing BCL, that is Bachelor of Civil Laws at Oxford, and how can law students plan their future right from the first year, especially if they want to apply for masters at a prestigious university like Oxford?
Very pertinent question, Shivam. I'm glad I'm getting the opportunity to talk about it. So in the 4th year of law school, I was quite certain that I had a very keen interest in human rights and I wanted to study further. So the first point really in this decision is, how do you know you want to do an LLM? And what are some good reasons for doing an LLM? Because sometimes students think, I just want to delay joining the workforce by a year, so I want to do the LLM. And very humbly, I would like to say, please don't think about it like that, because it's one short year which you really can utilize to your advantage if you plan ahead, but which will slip by if all you want to do in that year is delay decisions, right? You will not get anything out of it. So the first thing is to know why you're doing it. In my case, it was because I had a keen interest in a subject that I felt I had not been able to explore fully in undergraduate, and I wanted to explore it further on the graduate level. Secondly, I looked at several different LLM degrees. So I looked at what modules were in offer in Oxford, Cambridge, several other universities. And I felt that the BCL, which is the LLM equivalent, gave me the best combination of 4 modules that I wanted to pursue. So that was my motivation behind wanting to go to Oxford. And the third thing is, when do you feel you would have a good chance? Because the thing is, if you have a really high academic rank by the end of the undergraduate degree, then your chance of getting a good LLM is very high. But if you don't, then you might want to combine it with relevant work experience and then apply. Because a lot of universities, if they don't admit you, you receive a rejection from them, they will still sort of keep you on file, in the sense that when you apply the next year, it might be harder to get in, because they will try to look at what additional achievements you've gained in that 1 year, right? So trying to get in the first time that you apply is ideal. So you really need to think about when will be my best chance at getting an admission. So in my case, to an extent, I also wanted to capitalize on the fact that I had a really good academic rank coming out of NLS. I had some publications by that point. I had the necessary work experience that could show to the selection committee that this student knows what she's talking about. She can demonstrate why she wants to study the things she says she wants to study. So this was the combination of what led me to the BCL. And in terms of scholarships, I think money makes such a huge difference. For me personally, I know I would not have been able to do the BCL if it were not for a full funding. So, you can, and I want to put it out there that you can plan and plan and plan. You can plan as much as you want to. Sometimes things will go your way and sometimes they won't. You have to be prepared for both eventualities. So for example, in NLS, I don't agree with it, but at my time, there was an assumption that NLS will produce a Rhodes Scholar every year. And up until my year, there had been almost every year there had been a Rhodes Scholar. So there was an immense pressure to get the Rhodes Scholarship. I was the only one that was shortlisted from NLS that year. So there was a lot of pressure, but I did not get it ultimately. And from this vantage point, now I know better why I didn't get it. But at that point, I could have sort of given up and been like, I didn't get the Rhodes and this is not going to work out for me. How will I get a scholarship? How will I do the BCL, etc. I picked myself back up. I kept at the process and I received the fully funded Weidenfeld-Hoffmann scholarship. On top of that, I received the Cornelia Sorabjee scholarship, which I had to decline because that's just unfair to take more money than you need. I had to decline interviews for both Felix and INLAX. So I just think back to the time where I planned so much and I really wanted to get a particular scholarship, which I didn't get, which opened the door to 4 other huge scholarships and, a different journey, which has been rewarding in its own way. So I really want to emphasize that planning is very important. Please gather information about the scholarships that are available at the university that you want to apply to, as well as generic scholarships like JN Tata, like INLAX, like Felix. They're generally available irrespective of which university in particular you're applying to. But just know that it's a highly competitive process. And if you fail once, don't give up. That's the most important learning. Don't give up. Have several options and just keep going, even after you get a rejection.
Well, that's awesome. And just a question related to that. What was the application process for BCL like? I mean, there would, I'm sure, be some of the things for which law students would have to prepare much in advance. And do these scholarship applications go in simultaneously with your BCL application, or you have to apply for it later?
So the timeline is like this. The Rhodes timeline starts off in the summer before the BCL application. So for instance, it's open right now, and I think it ends in August. Rhodes is the only scholarship that holds its selection process even before the BCL application. The BCL application is in January, and the rest of the scholarships, so every scholarship that is dispersed by the University of Oxford will have the same timeline as the BCL application itself. So for the Weidenfeld-Hoffmann scholarship, for instance, you will have to additionally write answers to some questions that are specific to the scholarship, and that will be part of your BCL application. That statement will get appended to your BCL application. For some other scholarships, including Cornelia Sorabjee, you just have to tick a box, which will be in the application saying you want to be considered for all the scholarships that you're eligible for. So it's as simple as ticking a box and you will be considered and the faculty will decide. Now, the scholarships that are external to Oxford and that come after the BCL, so they include INLAX, Felix, JN Tata, Narottam, I'm forgetting the second word of the scholarship, but I think Narottam Siksharya, and they're all external in the sense that they fund individuals who go to not just Oxford, but LSE, SOAS, Cambridge, King's, and some of them even fund students who are not going to the UK altogether. So including INLAX, for example, which is a big scholarship. So what would be really useful for somebody who has decided that they will be applying for LLM degrees would be to make a spreadsheet, put down the names of the scholarships in one column, and then write down the deadlines for each. And I'm going to tell you in advance, if you're listening and you're somebody who's going to apply for LLMs, it's going to be a hard year. There'll be so many deadlines to deal with, but it's worth it. You know, it's something that every student has to go through. It's almost a rite of passage if you want to do a higher degree. Maybe find a friend who wants to apply as well, and you can work on this spreadsheet together, share resources, share some of the agony of going through the journey, and it'll be fine.
Well, I would say that all the efforts were worth it because you are now a PhD scholar and lecturer at the University of Oxford. How has your experience been so far of both, teaching and research? And again, was PhD an obvious choice after your BCL, or were there some, factors that you considered before going ahead with the PhD?
Okay, so I'll answer the second part of the question first, which is whether the PhD was an obvious choice. No, it wasn't at all. To be very honest, when I went into the BCL, I knew I will come out and start litigating. That was my frame of mind at that time. But what happened was I enjoyed the intellectual rigor of the BCL so much that by the time I finished it, I thought, is this it? Do I not get to study more? And that may sound a little sadistic because the BCL is a very difficult journey, and I want to assure you, I was really, really tense during the degree, and I suffered, as all students do when they're writing the exams. But once I was on the other side, I could reflect and think about what a steep learning curve the BCL had given me, how much I had learned, and there were some themes from the BCL that were still fresh in my mind, including human enhancement, including equality within the sphere of emerging technology, including medical ethics. So these were new things. I had not studied them in undergrad. I had never dreamt I would study something like this. And I couldn't really make peace with ending my academic journey there. So I think that's what happened. In my head, there was this strong desire to study these things more. So I ended up writing my PhD proposal on the equality implications of the use of human enhancement technology, which combined my interest in equality law and in human enhancement. And that's exactly what I'm doing my PhD on now. So as you can see, it was not a linear journey. I didn't know at the time that I was applying for the master's at Oxford that I might end up doing a PhD. In fact, if someone had asked me then, I would have probably said, never, I will never do a PhD. So I think that speaks for how much your journey can change depending on what you encounter. And about research and scholarship. So I am finishing the second year now, and I can tell you very candidly that every year of the PhD has its own personality. In the first year, you feel very excited because it's a new project and you're a new PhD student and you want to change the world through your research. And in the final year, of course, you are hustling to finish it. But in the middle few years, including the second year, there can be a sense of, dullness almost. You feel that my peers are getting promotions at law firm jobs, or my peers are, doing XYZ, and when will this project end? Essentially, is what you tell yourself. So I think in that sense, it has been really fruitful for me to do some things that are related to, but different from my PhD as well. So teaching at Oxford has been very rewarding. I get to go and speak to 18-year-old students once a week and discuss tort law with them, hear their views on how the law is changing. I like to mentor students. I have a bunch of different hobbies. So I think it's very important to keep the motivation up through whatever you like to do, and finding a way to continue to appreciate your journey. So whenever I'm feeling too dull, or I'm feeling that this is too slow, I can't take it, I try to remind myself of what my other interests are, and I try to devote some time to them. So I think that keeps the overall spark alive. And one thing that I really want to flag is very important for a PhD, and without which you simply cannot flourish as a PhD student, is that you should have an intense interest in your subject. So if it's something that you have written just by the by, that okay, maybe it'll be fine if I do this, no, it has to be, oh, I can't wait to find an answer to this intellectual question. That is when you'll be able to contain all of those years of work in your mind and constantly work at it, even when it gets difficult, even in the dull days, when I remind myself of why I started this project and what in it I find so fascinating, I get my passion back and I get my energy back.
All right. So another golden question. What next for Ayushi?
What next for Ayushi? Well, number one, of course, is more progress on the PhD. As I delve into it more and more, I learn new things and I find new themes to chase within this research area. So I want to do better at my PhD. That's the first thing. I want to make progress on it. The second thing is that I've become so fond of teaching, and I want to teach more. I want to share more. And sometimes I feel a sense of loss that I am in the UK and there are all these really motivated, enthusiastic students in India, which is my home country and which is very dear to me. So, finding new ways to reach out to them, finding new ways to connect to them. So that's another thing. And of course, taking a break. I think that is also on the cards for Ayushi. I'm going to head home in August and I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I'm going to spend time with my family. So I'm a big believer in work-life balance. And breaks are as important as the periods that you hustle.
Absolutely. Now, if you could go back to the first year of law school, is there anything that you would like to change? Considering you've already achieved everything, this is a tough question.
There's so much I would like to change, Shivam, to be honest. I'm not going to give a political answer to this question and say, oh no, everything was perfect. Not at all, not at all. I'm sure there's so much I would like to change in retrospect, but probably the most important thing is confidence. When you step into law school, the world changes. You see so many people who are better than you at different things. You see these lines and lines of achievements that is suddenly thrust upon you, and you can there's this pressure to do well at several things. And amidst all of this, it's very easy to lose yourself and it's very easy to lose confidence. So I wish that the 17-year-old Ayushi who entered NLS had told herself that she is going to do it all because she did. She ended up, well, at least ended up doing as much as she could, which was a lot. Because I do remember when I entered law school, I didn't have that much confidence. I didn't think I could do as well as I ended up doing, which is strange, right? So I would tell any young law student today that please know that there are these periods of low confidence. I have gone through them, and I have wished that I had told myself that if anyone can do it, you can do it too. Just just continue to believe in yourself. Don't get too affected by the constant grapevine of law school and the constant pressure.
Well, that was, something I could also relate to. I think we all start like that in law school, and ultimately building confidence is the key to succeed in law school and in the legal profession.
In life, yeah.
Any parting words of wisdom or advice for law students who are watching the show?
Yeah. So one thing that I think has become increasingly important for law students and students in general today is to learn outside of what the university teaches you. As I have come out into the real world, I have discovered that there is so much learning to be had beyond the coursework and the classroom. Keep your eyes and ears open. If you have a Twitter account, that's a good thing. Don't waste too much time on it. But there's a whole world out there. Please be in touch with what is happening in the world outside of the classroom, and especially try and make friends from disciplines other than the law, because most of our education in law schools tends to be sort of in an echo chamber where we only interact with law students, law professors, and legal luminaries and so on. But so much is changing in geophysics, in sciences, in art, in culture. And I think you can learn so much from what is happening in other disciplines. So try to give yourself that extra bit of learning outside of the law school classroom.
That's great. And towards that extra bit of learning, to all the viewers who are watching the podcast, Ayushi is organizing a workshop on short form writing from the 3rd of July. The details of this workshop are in the description of this video. There are limited seats for this and the deadline is fast approaching. Ayushi, would you like to talk about it?
Sure. Thanks, Shivam, for bringing that to the audience's attention. And in fact, more than 50% of the seats are gone. So there are less than 10 spaces available at the moment. But it's going to be a workshop over 3 weeks, but only one class per week. And the idea is for me to teach you how to arrive at a narrow research question, how to research on it, how to formulate your thoughts and your argument on it, and how to present it in a manner that's worthy of publication, how to reach that quality threshold of publication. And by the end of the workshop, each participant will have a draft of 800 to 1,000 words that I will provide written feedback on so that you know what to improve. And I will also tell you how I got one of the first few. So hopefully you will not have to go through that journey in as agonizing detail as I had to. But the idea for me personally is that I would like to share what I know with students in India. That's the thought behind it. So I would love it if a lot of you can join.
Well, on that note, thank you so much, Ayushi, for taking out time and being on my podcast. I'm sure it will inspire our budding lawyers to strive for excellence and be more socially aware and responsible citizens. Thanks again, and please give my regards to uncle, auntie, and lots of love to Gattu.
I will. Thanks so much.
Thank you.